roughly. $3,000 US. The winner gets around $6,000. So this is a $3,000 Hearthstone best of 5 right here. So you know they're taking it seriously.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, keep in mind that's just for the third place, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Right.
That's just for third place. When we get to the grand finals, that's where the real money starts to get dropped. But let's go ahead and jump into our first game of the night, D2. I'm so excited for this because we have got this best of five and or yeah, with two bans, of course. And I think the banning thing is something we haven't actually seen in a whole lot of the Hearthstone tournaments that we've cast. It's used to be just Conquest mode, but now it's going to be that last hero standing.
Yeah, and having a ban in Conquest mode really opened the door for so many different types of strategies. In particular, Murloc Paladin, which was pretty successful. We don't have any Murloc Paladin users in this part of the tournament, but there were many players who got to the round of 16, round of 8 using Murloc Paladin because you're allowed to ban the decks that basically take it out. And there's not too many decks that take it out, as it turns out.
Right. Turns out Murloc Paladin is actually pretty darn good, as long as, like you said, D2, you can avoid certain decks. Now, of course, Secret Paladin may have a little bit more hype behind it as one of, if not the strongest deck in Hearthstone. Of course, there's different measures for strength and weaknesses and all that kind of stuff, but suffice it to say, it's a pretty good deck, and you're starting to see why.
Exactly. And one thing to keep in mind, it looks like we have LovelyChook trying to test to see if this is Noble Sacrifice. I believe it's Avenge, if I can remember it correctly. But yeah, this is... I can't really look at Secret Paladin the same after I saw in Star League, another tournament's going on right now, basically concurrent. It's going to start in about an hour, but stay here, guys. But anyway, it was actually Robin who was playing against Stan Sifka. Robin, someone who we know very well from the Hearthstone team story. And that game, he had two 4/4 Secret Keepers on turn 3, and it was such a blowout, I think I'll be scarred forever by Secret Paladin versus Secret Paladin.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, because Secret Keepers don't just power up off of your secrets, they power up off of your opponents too. So you can see that 2/3 Secret Keeper, he's going to get a lot of help from secrets on both sides.
Exactly. So that means that MagicWind can't really play out secrets right now, even though that would aid him as far as holding off the aggression from LovelyChook. But yeah, like you said, you're just turning that Secret Keeper into a 3/4. It's a very difficult situation for both players, and looks like he's going to commit to that redemption. Now, how will we see LovelyChook compete with this? Might go with the Muster for Battle, but that will set off both Redemption and Avenge, probably, considering the knives coming out. So this is actually very tricky here.
On the one side, you've got a Secret Keeper that's continuing to get stronger and stronger, but of course, on the other side, you've got sort of a catch-22. It's like, do you play Muster for Battle and get a ton of knives and proc a ton of secrets and still develop your board? It's like it all feels kind of awkward, and it all depends on where these knives hit.
Exactly. So it does take out the mini-bot, which means that the Haunted Creeper will get buffed to, I believe, a 4/3, and the Shielded mini-bot will come back. So this is kind of strange. And how does Newbie's LovelyChook deal with this? He probably at least pings off the shield of the mini-bot. Whether he takes it out with the Secret Keeper as yet another story. He probably goes face... No, he's actually going to start trading with his Knife Juggler. I guess he's a bit afraid of Consecrate coming out right here.
Right, and I think one of the big things that he wants to try to avoid is putting too much on the board and letting it get overdeveloped for things like I was trying to think about what
Yeah.
could well Consecrate kills off his big board, but instead we're going to see the other 4-cost Paladin card that of course they always have on turn board. That True Silver Champion is going straight for that Secret Keeper, which to be fair is still value because you're killing off a 1-mana card with a 4-mana.
Ooh, Repentant is a card you don't want to pick up here. LovelyChook has already used a lot of his Seekers. This Mysterious Challenger will probably be pulling not too many. But let's see what LovelyChook goes with. He might just go for a bluff here. LovelyChook has played Noble Sacrifice, and he played something else to buff his Secret Keeper. Or was that... That was just MagicWind, wasn't it? So, LovelyChook has played Noble Sacrifice only? This game is getting confusing. There's too many secrets.
Yeah, and plus it's difficult to figure out like where the secrets have come from because they're all the exact same secrets. So you're starting to see, okay, well, this secret procced, and then you see the exact same one go for the opponent. It's like, oh my goodness.
Well, we are going to see a kill on this Knife Juggler. And Avenge is going to go off after that. It's going to bring one of these 1/1s to a 4/3. Obviously, doesn't matter which. And finally, we're going to see a Paladin Shredder, which will get Repentance. And likely going to be a Noble Sacrifice afterward. We see LovelyChook's reaction. That's one of the worst cards for you to affect your opponent. It's one of the better cards you could put on the field if you're trying to, get something Repentance, because it does come back. And actually, no Noble Sacrifice played here. I guess he doesn't... I'm actually a bit surprised by that. But wow, Darnassus Aspirant comes out, and that takes away a mana crystal from MagicWind. Wow.
That is incredible. It's a little bit like what is it? What's the Warlock card that does that? That takes one of your mana crystals away. I guess there's two of them that kill off your own mana crystals. Suffice it to say, it's pretty bad when it happens to you. And I mean, Lotheb is a pretty good card to deny any sort of really crazy turnarounds. But I mean, it's turn 6, and we all know what Paladins play on turn 6.
Exactly. LovelyChook unfortunately had a pretty poor turn prior to that, just having the hero power. But, he took away a mana from his opponent, and things have worked out pretty well for him. Looks like we're probably going to see, just MagicWind playing out his entire hand. He can't really wait. Going to turn this Secret Keeper into a 6/7 right away. The Boulder Face Ogre Secret Keeper coming onto the field now. And let's see how LovelyChook deals with it. He probably starts off with attack to face.
Right.
Just to, or use your own Light's Justice to hit the face, and then you play out the Dr. Boom. If it is Noble Sacrifice, which you'll see right now, then you can just go ahead and play out your Dr. Boom. Or, I guess he's reaching for that Cog Hammer, interestingly enough. Oh, okay, he's gonna get a free kill on this. This is pretty nice. If you're not gonna get a... Well, okay, you play the Cog Hammer first. It's
right.
it's kind of bad because you get rid of your weapon, but, I mean, you get a free kill on this big guy right here. Big woman.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say it's quote unquote big. I like to think of cards that are buffed up by spells as a bunch of what's that the Tumbling Runts card where
wobbling runs or something.
Wobbling Runts, yeah, where they're all stacked up on top of each other inside this giant coat, and you're just they look really big, but we all know what's behind them. It's still just that 1-mana Secret Keeper, which in this series, to be fair, has been absolutely ridiculous.
I don't know, when I think of stuff that's been buffed up, I think of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and and they just get huge, and it's... Anyway, I guess I'm getting carried away here. Anyway, we have LovelyChook in a pretty commanding position. It would have to be probably Tyrion off the top here to really save MagicWind. Otherwise, I mean, even that would not be enough, I don't think. I mean, what could he possibly draw here? He has Rag in his deck. We've seen it before. So that could be okay. Mysterious Challenger is one of the best cards, but I still don't think it's going to be enough.
No, he's gonna get him 2 or 3, 4 secrets. Okay, oh yeah, that's right. It was LovelyChook that had played a bunch.
Yeah, this is getting confusing, right? But
yeah, it's just I think, to be fair, if they both run 8 secrets, that's 16 secrets that you might be seeing in this game. I think we actually might have seen all of them that time around. It was a little bit confusing, but now we have the promise of only seeing at best 1 more Paladin deck, so we're good.
Right. Well, we could see it time and time again if LovelyChook keeps wailing on it, but it would have to keep losing, so it can't really stay around too long, at least. And yeah, very well played by LovelyChook there. Not much to do there from MagicWind, but good trades by LovelyChook, playing very, very safe. It's kind of weird, right? When you see 2 aggressive decks go against each other, and Secret Paladin isn't too aggressive, but it can get a very aggressive start. But when you have these kind of matchups, you can get blown out if you get too greedy, and LovelyChook definitely played it very cautiously there.
Yeah, and just a highlight in between games here, the difference between these two players. For LovelyChook, this guy is a proven tournament winner. He won the last Gold Series, 2014. This is 2015. He won the last Gold Series. He took it all the way to the finals, and while the finals were pretty close, this guy is the real deal pro Hearthstone player for Newbee. Of course, his opponent, I'm not sure what the
champion too. So yeah, he won Korea versus China, did MagicWind, and then he got to the finals the next season. So right. MagicWind, he has accomplishments. Unfortunately, they're in 2014, and since then he's been more of a streamer than anything. The thing I think you were trying to remember was that LovelyChook actually got to the finals of the WCA Pro Qualifier this year, and he got $8,000 for that. So he's definitely gotten results in multiple tournaments, including this one right here.
The other thing is like if you want to think of MagicWind as a North America or a European streamer, it reminds me a little bit like Forsen, where he's not really a pro player; he's more of a streamer, but he still does attend tournaments sometimes. But it's still pretty impressive to watch a guy who used to play competitively, but now is more of a streamer, do so well in a tournament that's actually the most stacked tournament in China for Hearthstone players, just as every big name that you could possibly imagine.
It's funny that you compare him to Forsen because the analogy works as far as, they started out as a pro, now they're streaming more and they're getting more kind of income off of that. But like you said, they're both entering tournaments, but however, their personalities could not be more polar opposite.
Yeah, okay.
When you see MagicWind have an interview, he holds it with both hands. He's always polite and I mean I love Forsen, he's a great guy, but he is not MagicWind at all. Anyway, we have a really slow start here from LovelyChook, and this doesn't bode well at all. And this matchup is all about the early game. If you can secure the game early, I've had this explanation a few times here, but it bears repeating. When you're the shaman, if you can get the early game, you're allowed to get a few extra points in of damage on your opponent, and then from there you can just, race your opponent. You can go all face, and they can't really do anything about it. There's no healing in the zoo. As the zoo, if you can gain the early game, now all of a sudden you have the board, and no matter how much Shaman tries to race you, you're just going to kill them. So it turns out that the early game is very, very important in this particular matchup.
All right, well, Earthshock is also a really, really good card to draw here, because now you have the opportunity to either get rid of the egg forever, or silence off that the wolf. Now, doing that is not super effective. I think you'd rather just use Lightning Bolt to kill off the wolf and then silence the egg, or maybe you want to take the damage off the board. What's the best course of action here?
Well, the thing is, he wants to use the the Lava Shock, definitely, because he wants to be coining into Doomhammer next turn. So if you see the Lightning Bolt, then you're probably not going to see the Earth Shock, and you're not going to see the coin either, so that's what LovelyChook ended up going with. Unfortunately, he continues to not have a board, which is problematic in this matchup, or in any matchup, really.
Yeah, I'm trying to think to myself, it's like, how do you win the game without playing minions? He hasn't even, he's got one minion in his hand right now. Of course, Aggro Shaman's a very spell-heavy deck, but it's pretty odd to see it draw this strangely, just because it's so front-loaded with spells. Which, I mean, to be fair, we've seen it be good at clearing off the board, but it's not going to be that way forever.
Do you implosion your own imp or your own egg here? I think you do. Yeah, you just need stuff on the board, and you're tired of waiting for Shaman to put stuff on the board. You just need to get these imps on the field. So yeah, just goes ahead and implosions your own stuff because you cannot wait any longer. I mean, you're basically Gromish here, right? I cannot wait any longer.
Pretty much. And for now, finally, a playable minion coming into hand. So LovelyChook does have the opportunity to actually do something this turn. Unfortunately, there's a pretty strong Nerubian on the field, and you don't want to play a 1-health Divine Shielded minion into 2/1/1s on the board.
Right. I mean, you could just start hitting the face here. Looks like he's just going to go for the mana efficient play and go for that Lava Burst. By the way, I casted the the semifinals earlier today, and this is exactly what happened to LovelyChook earlier in the tournament. He basically got knocked out by having such a poor hand like this when he played against Zhangbo. And this is what can happen when you play Shaman, and you basically run against Zoo, and it can fall flat exactly like this.
Yeah, and so when it comes to falling flat, we've all seen examples where decks like Face Hunter would just completely burn out, or they play against Control Warrior, and turn 2 the Control Warrior would have 50 armor, and you're just like, okay, well, go next game. This time around, it's a little bit more dynamic because, for one, the Warlock has no cards, so MagicWind is going to have to pull some of those out, and that's going to require tapping. So that's going to deal damage to his face, and that might give LovelyChook the opportunity to say, okay, well, I had a rough early game, but now we can finally start putting some work into coming back.
Right. You saw MagicWind willingly discard 2 of his cards because he wanted to get the tempo of this Doomguard on the field. We saw this earlier. I mentioned that LovelyChook was in a similar spot. It was much worse than this. I believe there was a Lothab and a Doomguard on the field, so that's much more difficult to deal with. But I mean, he can come back from the situation that was pretty much dire, was pretty much over, but he's going to have to find a way to kill off this Doomguard because you can't really raise with 5 damage to your face for 0 mana since it's already on the board. And we'll see what he does do in this situation. He can potentially take it out with Lava Shock and Crackle. Maybe he just goes for the YOLO Crackle. Could you do that?
Oh man, dude, if that rolls 7, I am done casting Hearthstone. I'm gonna be a professional spectator because I
Well,
was moments like that.
he's going for the guaranteed kill here, and if it rolls for a 5. Okay, so you don't feel
Okay.
too bad. I,
Well met. So good on him to go for the safe play there. Unfortunately, that does mean that while the Warlock can draw extra cards off of his hero power, Shaman, I mean, the cards he summons are kind of so it's like, who's really going to get the advantage here? And okay, finally a Tunnel Trog, but no Overload in hand.
Right. Well, it allows him to play stuff onto the field. It's much better to get these minions right now. Obviously, you want them in the early game, but since it's basically, both players are running out of cards, running out of resources, you definitely want these the recurring damage of minions rather than just hitting the face. So I think it's perfectly fine for LovelyChook here. Gonna go ahead and take it out and see. Yeah, definitely a nice gamble there. Trying to see whether or not, there was going to be the need for an Urshok potentially, and
Yeah, but what do you do if that pulls Mal'Ganis out of the hand? Like, how are you
you
going to deal with that?
you lose. But
Yeah,
I think it's a worthy gamble though.
Now, there is an implosion draw that's pretty good because of the low health of the minions on the board. So you just implosion the Tunnel Trog and then go for it. Ooh, draw into the second Doomguard. That's actually going to be a big card coming up.
Oh no. So
Man.
yeah, it ends up being a miss. And one thing that this Earthshock can do now is kill off potentially this owl that hits the field. It could have killed off, something like a knife juggler if that hit the field because of the spell damage, excuse me. So that's a reason why LovelyChook kept it. He really needed to have the board going forward and really force his opponent to keep tapping for more and more minions. So that's basically what LovelyChook's plan is here. Basically just shut off his opponent's board, and that's how Zoo gets damage in. And if you can do that continuously, then maybe you have a chance at winning this game.
Maybe. And this is kind of a strange game because neither deck really got the opportunity to do what it's supposed to do. They both want to get tons of stuff on the field, and LovelyChook had a terrible early game with not a lot of minions, and now those minions are starting to trickle in. But the question is, have they come a little bit too late? As we all know, if we see something like I don't know, what would be a good card to draw? Maybe some Zoo decks run Hellfire just in case they get down on the board, but that's kind of
Very
rare.
unlikely, yeah.
Yeah, pretty unlikely. So this does look like LovelyChook is favored at the moment, but I mean anything can happen. Who knows what's
I've honestly never seen a game go like this before. Usually one player just snowballs to a victory at this point. Or maybe if it's close, it's because, both players are racing each other. I've never seen a game just kind of drag out like this. So I'm actually curious to see what's going to happen myself. But you're right. Zoo has a very hard time dealing with a pretty big board. So it seems like it definitely favors LovelyChook here.
All right, we're going to see what one of the last straws of the game is going to be here. MagicWind, what is coming into that guy's hand? He's got a tap as well. He's also got that Doomguard to get some tempo back on the field. Straw is coming a little slow, and it's Mal'Ganis.
Right, Mal'Ganis, the thing is, LovelyChook was probably thinking last turn that I might need to save this Earthshock from Mal'Ganis, but on the other hand, you can't really have Mal'Ganis stay on the field anyway. Is this lethal, by the way? So you can put Rock Biter, you can use your face, obviously, if it's lethal. Just can't take 18 damage. But, so you use the Rock Biter, you hit the guy once, and then you throw in, like, an Argent Horse Rider. Then you have, 5 and 5, 10, 12. You put up a Taunt Totem, which means you're probably safe from any sort of Doomguard. There's no real Soulfire in the deck, so you can't die to something like a Doomguard tap Soulfire. And I think that LovelyChook has somehow done it.
Yeah, LovelyChook does seem to... That was sort of his last turn. He's like, all right, I win this turn or I lose this turn. And with an unfortunate draw on an egg that does nothing, looks like the victory does go to LovelyChook for the second game in a row.
Wow, I cannot believe he won that. It was looking so bad earlier there, but looks like MagicWind just, jumped the gun quite a bit there by going with that Doomguard. We've seen that in the past where if you can get the tempo from that Doomguard, it can really help you out, but typically you need to do that when you have a board, and it looks like it was just a bit too early there for MagicWind, and LovelyChook was able to play the long game, which almost never happens in that matchup.
Yeah, you don't look at decks like Face Hunter, like I don't know, what is it, Aggro Druid, or all of these like early game, not necessarily cheesy decks, but I mean when half your deck costs less than 2 mana, and I think even for the Aggro Shaman, I think the entire deck with the exception of the Doom Hammers, cost like 3 mana or less. Like you don't play that for the long game, and we saw an example there of maybe suboptimal hands for both players, but the sort of long game aggro shaman paying off in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, when I saw LovelyChook play this way in the semifinals, kind of trading a lot with the Shaman, and, I kind of felt, why aren't you hitting the face? You have to kill your opponent at some point, but I guess this was his strategy in that particular game, and in this game, he did the same thing, and it happened to work out, so looks like he has a bit of experience with that deck, and it panned out for this game. So we have Warlock, Paladin, and Druid left for MagicWind, and only the Druid for LovelyChook. Can he take it, and can he take that extra $3,000 for getting third place?
Like you said, a lot of extra money on the line, and here we go into game number 3. Exactly. Best of 5 does mean that this is the final one, and actually going to see a little bit of an interesting Druid deck. I talk about the subtle nuances
Raven
to
Idol.
the yeah. I mean, Raven Idol's included in not every Druid deck, but why is it in this one?
Right, it seems like a flavor card for a lot of players. You don't see it all the time, but we've seen it quite a bit, as we see too in LovelyChook's deck here. And what it does is, basically, why you put this in the deck is that Druid sometimes can, have a pretty dead hand. Whether, you have too many minions or too many spells. Sometimes you have too many minions and you really need a spell to help you come back. Sometimes you have all spells and need something on the field to just pressure your opponent. And it can be really nice to have these Raven Idols to basically fill out stuff. Obviously, it uses up 1 mana, but you that's the price you pay for consistency, essentially. We have a question in the chat about the format, or not the format, the nature of this tournament. This tournament is very big in China. We are piggybacking on one of the Chinese sites. However, it hasn't gotten too much attention. We're trying to change that by bringing as much Chinese Hearthstone to you guys at home, so that's why we're doing our best to bring this tournament to you. Unfortunately, it's not getting the thousands of viewers like in China, but we're doing our best, guys.
I just pretend there's a bunch of zeros out there anywhere at the end of the viewer count, so it's all good. But yeah, thanks to everybody for watching. This is the best of the best Chinese Hearthstone you can get right now, so you're definitely in the right place. Now, there's this card called Swipe, which I love to punish my opponents with. However, a notoriously difficult card to draw on curve. We're seeing the exact ramifications of that right now. No swipes being drawn, and there's a Tree of Life. Oh my gosh.
Are we going to see a Tree of Life game? That could happen.
D2, hold me. It's so beautiful. I love that card. That has to be like my favorite Druid card. One of my favorite cards in the entire game. It never gets played. Back when Fatigue, you played
you might
into
pick
a lot
Claw,
of,
like, though. Before you go.
Okay, no.
He's going to pick Claw.
Oh my gosh. Ugh. I'm so angry right now. MagicWind, you better beat this guy because he totally chose the wrong card.
There's Swipe, by the way. I got the Swipe.
Okay, okay. That's at least worth it. So if he doesn't pick Swipe here, I'll be doubly disappointed.
Well, yes. He's picking practical cards, right? I mean, if you
come on,
if you Tree
Hearthstone
of Life,
is a fun game.
If you Tree of Life when your opponent has a Mysterious Challenger and a Dr. Boom and a Tyrion on the board, you're probably just going to die the next turn anyway. This game is about tempo. Obviously, damage to your face is kind of a big deal, but I can see taking the Claw for its utility. Sorry about that, Rapid.
Taking the Claw for its utility. For its boringness, D2. How boring is using a claw? It's like, oh no, I've got this little claw over here. I'm going to kill you with it. And it's just a Tree of Life, man. That thing's huge. It's like the Reno Jackson before Reno Jackson came out. So, except it does it for both players. So it's like half as good for almost twice as much mana, or 50% as much mana. Anyway, here comes the Swipe. Swipe's a pretty good card, D2. That's exactly what we're going to see here. Ooh, it does get a minion that would have had charge anyway, so you're not really losing too much by killing the Shredder on this turn.
Right, but do you commit to the Claw? Do you commit to the Innervate? Probably going to be the Claw here just to take one of these guys out. You really don't have a way to kill anything else or anything in the future anyway.
And I think you definitely want to kill off the mini-bot so that it doesn't get reincarnated with, a Divine Shield again.
Right,
so.
Yeah, definitely smart to kill that one. Keeping all of the kind of the ways that you can get punched in mind here for LovelyChook. So definitely
that's very important. I should probably just highlight that for a few seconds. Like, playing Hearthstone isn't just about like making the smartest decisions about like how to kill off your opponent's board or kill off. You have to like think the next step ahead and say, okay, well, how can he kill me? What kind of options can I expect out of him? And of course, we do see LovelyChook, one of the highest caliber tournament players in this tournament, doing that very, very well.
Yep. And we have a pretty intimidating board here still for MagicWind, despite what LovelyChook was able to get out of that swipe and that claw, those double Raven idols. Just a lot of pressure on the board right here. And how do you deal with this? I mean, it's really hard. You don't really want to just reveal your shade right now, but you kind of have to.
I mean, Force of Nature here, that bears some playing. It wouldn't be a terrible card to play right now, just because it does help deal with the board, maybe give you some more turns to draw into other combo pieces. But as a combo piece itself, you definitely do want to try to keep it in your hand. Plus, with an Innervate in hand, that does mean that we've got the combo available now on turn 7 when it comes around.
Right, well, if nothing is killed off here by MagicWind, then there's 26 damage coming from LovelyChook, so still no lethal, unfortunately. I say unfortunately, even though that'd be kind of insane to have lethal on turn 7 after being dominated the entire time. But looks like it's going to be an attack to the face from LovelyChook. Wants MagicWind to kind of respond to this shade right here. Competitive Spirit picked up probably one of the worst cards that you can pick up here from MagicWind. Not only is he not going to pull it from his deck, but also he's not going to be able to get it on the field right now.
Yeah, I mean, Mysterious Challenger is one of the better cards to be able to pick up here because it is going to allow MagicWind to at least block one of the things that's going to hit his face, and that thing is going to deal a lot of damage. So definitely want to pull those cards out of your deck. I mean, it would. I guess the other play was to play Coghammer and get that taunted up Divine Shield, but turns out secrets are pretty cool, even though he doesn't get all 5 of them.
Full Christmas tree dream, ripping pepperonis. However,
can you imagine just getting half a Christmas tree, D2? It's like your parents call you into the living room for opening your presents. You're like, dude, mom, dad, why is there half a Christmas tree in here? It's like, well, we accidentally drew the other secret here, so doing the best we can.
What are you talking about, mom and dad, as you see them playing Hearthstone on their iPad? But, yeah.
It's like there's that commercial for Hearthstone where you see the Hearthstone cards getting yanked around the arena as the guy's drawing it around on his phone. It's kind of like that, but Christmas is like special. You can't play around with that. You also can't play around with Bloodsail Corsairs. Those things. Those
are pirates, man. Don't
mess
with
those
pirates.
Yeah, pirates are bad business. So better to stay away from those. We are about to see. So there's going to reduce.
The Repentance coming out here. I'm actually a bit surprised here because LovelyChook could have gone for the combo. I mean, obviously you're a bit afraid of your opponent just following up with Dr. Boom or something crazy like that. Is he just going to go for lethal here? Wow, this is bold.
Okay, and, like you said, yes, bold indeed is in fact the word. And he's going to proc all these secrets this turn, and then pretty much just hope that next turn we don't have, double Sludge Belchers being put out with stolen Innervates off Mind Visions.
Well, there is a Coghammer, so that can be an issue, obviously.
Yeah, Coghammer definitely going to throw some wrenches into the works. Of course, you can play both Coghammer and Consecration, which is going to clear off your board and really extend this game at least one more turn.
And deal a ton of damage. Actually, will it be extended? Does he have lethal right now? That's a lot of damage.
I don't think that is lethal.
No, it is exactly lethal.
Oh my god!
You take a chance and you get burned, LovelyChook, and that is game 3, going over to MagicWind.
Wow. Yeah, MagicWind, like you said, D2, exact lethal. So if he had been one off right there, the game's just... I guess it wouldn't have been over, because he has a Divine Shielded Taunt.
I actually didn't catch what it landed on, but whatever it was Divine Shield Taunt. So it's really hard to get combo around that kind of thing.
It was the Corsair, but yeah, definitely don't want to mess with pirates in that case. Still, a great game. Definitely came down to the wire. That shade got scarier and scarier as the game drew on. But unfortunately, without picking that Tree of Life earlier, D2, the game ended there. Just saying.
You should have innovated Tree of Life there.
It's the solution, man. We've actually seen Druid decks, I say decks plural with wishful thinking, because there's actually only one deck this Gold Series that did in fact run Tree of Life. It was a beautiful, beautiful Dragon Druid that also ran Reno Jackson. It was the craziest deck I've ever seen. It was beautiful and wonderful, and worked pretty well up until it lost. So, Wishful thinking. That's what keeps my hopes alive, man. If I hadn't seen that particular deck, I would never imagine in a million years that Tree of Life could be in a deck. But now we don't even see the Druid. Actually, yeah, we okay. So we do still have Druids. So there's a chance for those Raven Idols to come up big again.
A man can dream, right? A man can dream.
There's actually Druid on both sides. So if they're both running Raven Idols,
I don't think MagicWind is, if I remember correctly. But fine, maybe he will. I don't know. We'll keep your hopes
well,
up.
probably not. It is a little bit of a tech card, just depending on personal preference and what you want to add to your deck. But here we go. We're back into game number 4 coming your way, and once again, game point for
All right. MagicWind runs
Lovely.
Jiraxis in the zoo. I totally forgot about that.
Definitely a card that you don't expect in Zoo. It's a little bit like, in Rogues, they'll add things like Ragnaros or Doctor Boom to get those later on threats just for some big minions. Well, this case, I don't know. Jiraxis is still a little bit feels a little strange to me as a caster, just like seeing that in a Zoo deck. Because for Zoo, you want to like snowball the board up until turn 9, not play Jiraxis up there.
Well, to be fair, if you get it off the Void Caller, you get a 315, which is kind of nice. So that might be what he's thinking about, since he does have that Void Caller in hand. By the way, these 2 hands from these players are pretty poor.
Especially from the Druid. LovelyChook is like, okay, where's that Innervate at? Not going to find it, but does draw into a Darnassus Aspirant. It's a pretty good card to have right now.
You could play that. We'll probably see a coin into Implosion on the side of MagicWind to kind of cut off what could come out from LovelyChook. I mean, obviously, the Druid, basically the big Druid minions start at 4. Sometimes you see Shades, but it's more likely to have something on 5. There's so many minions that come out on 5. So, yeah, it's just going to be this Implosion coming out. Hits for 3, fair and balanced. Obviously, if it hit for 2, that would be a bit of a problem for MagicWind. But, yeah, LovelyChook has a bit of an answer here by going with the Shredder, just kind of developing his own board. And he's not too far behind. This is kind of a bad matchup for Druid because of the fact that, the Zoo can kind of flood the board before Druid can really do anything about it. But for now, LovelyChook is kind of an okay spot, I suppose.
Yeah, LovelyChook, I think the big deal for him this game is going to
Oh,
be...
no.
Oh,
Wow.
all right, well, hey, there you go. Getting the 1-1 off your Shredder. And, of course, as we all know, by looking at MagicWind's hand, when his quote-unquote Shredder dies, that Void Caller is going to call a 315 onto the board.
Right. I mean, I was thinking about, the big difference between a 2-3 and a 3-2 there. Obviously, if a 3-2 came out, then the Imp can just trade into it, but 1-1 is an entirely different story. What do you do now if you're LovelyChook? By the way, good play there by MagicWind saying, go ahead, swipe my board, see if I care. Just setting everything up nice and perfect. 4 health, 1 health, 1 health. Just go ahead, just go with the swipe. And we see that would be pretty much of a disaster here for LovelyChook. But let's see if he goes for that Azure Drake or he goes for the Druid of the Claw. And if he does go for the Druid of the Claw, does he go for it in charge or taunt form? It's kind of difficult to put it in taunt form when you see something like a Dire Wolf Alpha, or if you're facing Shaman, something like a Flame Tongue Totem that can help out in killing it.
All right, well, we are going to see whether or not this board gets super scary or not. I think it's pretty guaranteed to get super scary. Because here we go. We're going to see Druid of the Claw. It's going to trade into the Wolf instead of killing off the Doomsayer, or the Void Caller. Doomsayer, what am I talking about? Void Caller. I guess that's definitely the value play to make, but we're still going to see... Oh, and now there's a Doom Guard. So it's like, which super effective card do you get to put on the board now?
Exactly. I think you want to... Actually, either one is fine, really, because you don't really want to play Jiraxis anytime soon, so you're kind of fine with whatever comes out here. I think that MagicWind might be a bit sad that he got the two. They're both really good. I don't know. It just doesn't really matter too much, actually.
Right. There's no Defender of Argus in hand. If he had had that, then it's guaranteed that he would have been sad to get Jiraxis. He does get Jiraxis out there on the board. It's incredibly difficult to deal with unless you have things like Power Word, Well, no,
it's just really hard to deal with.
Yeah,
Shadow Word Pain, which isn't a Druid card, unfortunately. So, yeah, I think LovelyChook, this is the beginning of the end here. I think
you put those Raven Idols in there, man.
He needs Poison Seeds, but then he's still taking a lot of damage. I don't see it happening.
All right, well, here we go. No.
Mark of the Wild can be okay if you can put it on, like, your Doctor Boom, for instance, but we see there's a Power Overwhelming in hand as well, and that's obviously not a play you can even make until turn 8, unless you get, obviously, Innervate, so everything just looking really horrible right now for LovelyChook.
Yeah, I think LovelyChook actually just dead. There's really nothing he can do here.
Yeah, and since this game is so one-sided, I want to talk about their deck lineups. I mean, we've seen this happen so often in the finals here, in the semifinals earlier, and probably going to happen in the finals as well, where one player gets ahead, and they have Druid left, and it really struggles to get a win. And you might be asking, why did these players bring Druid if it's struggling so much? But that's the reason why they got here in the first place, because Druid can punish things like Reno Lock, and as you can see, there's barely any Reno Locks. There's basically one in the form of LovelyChook, and he plays the OTK variant, which is reasonable, dealing with other certain decks. So it's really interesting, the dynamic between all these decks, and right now Druid is basically the liability for these, not only these two players, but the two players in the finals as well.
Absolutely right. Now with this being pretty much the final turn,
I want to see all of the imps. I want to just throw away the imp and the dark peddler and just throw the next knife juggler and then implosion. Even if somehow playing the knife juggler kills off the Azure Drake, I want to see just implosion your own guy, just to see all of the knives.
1,000,000 knives all coming down. That's I don't know if that's like 10 out of 10 BM. You can see he's actually thinking about it. At least he was there for a second, but does look like he is just going to go for the power overwhelming. And yeah, that power is definitely going to be overwhelming for the Azure Drake. Of course, now we're going to see as many knives as we want come down as soon as he plays that next implosion. I'm not even sure if he's going to get a chance because LovelyChook is in a pretty rough spot.
Right. I mean, how much damage we see on the board? It looks like it's 12. If you play one minion, then you can start throwing knives. So basically, LovelyChook's saying, can I just play this Doctor Boom? You technically can. You're not technically dead on board, but he's pretty much dead. The only way he lives, I think, if both Boombots hit this Doomguard for a total of 7. That's the only way that he lives here. Basically, the knife jugglers have to hit both Boombots, and both Boombots have to kill the Doomguard for him to live here, which I think is pretty hard to do. Anyway, that is going to be... Sorry about that weird hypothetical. Anyway, MagicWind takes game number 4. We're going to game 5.
Sweet. I love Game 5s. Game 5s are the best because it means that both players are playing super well. It also means that we get to see all of their decks being played, and it's always a good opportunity to just finally get as much time watching these players as possible, because this will be their final appearance in this Gold Series. So we played the entire year, 2015, multiple other regional Gold Series, and now it's all come down to this third and fourth place match for these players.
I'm just happy that we're going to be basically on schedule, right? Because usually when things go short, that means you have to wait until 10 o'clock Chinese time for the next match, and it's probably just going to go right smoothly into the final. It's going to be nice and easy. But yeah, you're right, going to be a Game 5 Druid Mirror. We've seen a lot of Druid Mirrors. I mentioned this before. This has happened a lot, where if players are playing a lot of aggressive decks plus Druid, then a lot of times if they face against each other, then one player gets into a lead, and then they have to play the Druid, and then the Druid falters, and then we just see a Druid Mirror. So we're going to have a nice Druid Mirror here to decide who can win, and it all comes down to that early ramp usually, but obviously you want to get those minions as well, to those really tough, durable, sticky minions to get on the board so you can start dealing that damage.
All right, well, I believe the last deck to be played for MagicWind is, in fact, a Druid.
Yes.
So that does mean that we will be seeing lots of Druid action once again. Big fan of Druids, but they do certainly seem to be struggling here.
Exactly. But, if it's Druid against Druid, it's pretty even. Both of these are mid-range Druid. We saw them in the past. They are not going to be any sort of aggro Druid shenanigans. So, nice, even matchup. We did see Raven Idols in LovelyChook's Druid. I don't believe they're in MagicWind, though maybe my memory could be a little bit off here. We'll see what happens between these two players. But regardless of what happens, they definitely want to get those, early ramp cards to be able to get ahead in the mana curve.
Right. Alternatively, you can go the other direction, get Innervates early, and put on some crazy early pressure, get a lot of value out of that. So we'll see what happens for both players. Do you have Raven Idols in LovelyChook's deck? He's the player on the bottom half of the screen. But for MagicWind, I'm not sure if he is actually going to run that tech variant. Of course, that means that there's a little bit more questions for what he runs in his specific Druid deck.
So this is a bit of a safe keep here from LovelyChook. He's keeping the Raven Idol because just in case he picks up a really dead hand, really a hand filled with either spells or just all minions or something, and he needs to get out, a minion on curve, then this will allow him to play that Raven Idol and help him out. Looks like he's going to go for it right here. Probably going to go for no, he's going to go for a spell, actually. So, what do you go for here? You can go for another Raven Idol and try again, but I imagine you're probably going to pick one of these spells. It's a little bit too much of a loss of tempo if you go for another Raven Idol. So probably going to be Mark of the Wild here. Or Mark of
Yeah,
Nature. I always get these mixed up, and I'm very sad that this is not in English right now. But Mark
yeah,
of Nature, I believe. Mark of Nature.
yeah.
Right.
And I mean, Starfall is like that's that trap card that I played. As in the card is a trap, not that it's actually a secret. But it sort of sucks you in because you're like, wow, I get to deal damage, I get to draw a card. It's like it's so cool.
Right, it's a bit expensive though, so he's thinking about it. It could be useful later on. In particular, it's probably going to be useful against something like an Ancient of Lore, which is typically very difficult to get rid of, but
Right.
this is kind of a tough decision for him. And he does go for the Mark of Nature in the end.
Still kind of difficult card to get in your hand. I mean, I guess you can use it when you combo if you've got an innervate. You can add that extra 4 damage, but even then, it's still pretty questionable. It's mostly just used for making huge taunts on the board later on in the game. So I'm still not sure. Questionable usefulness, but it's always nice to have that element of surprise for your opponent.
Exactly, you can have that and basically get a really good trade when your opponent wasn't suspecting it. Looks like we have, obviously, the Starnasis into this Pile of Cheddar on the field. If you're LovelyChook here, I don't imagine you can really afford to go for a Pile of Cheddar here, even though it is technically on curve. I think you have to start coining into your 5-drops here. Druid of the Claw into Druid of the Claw is pretty powerful.
Yeah, certainly pretty powerful, and of course, getting consecutive on mana turns is also really good. Now, of course, he is facing off against a very, very strong board there by MagicWind. So you not only have to build one that's big for yourself, but you also have to, be able to deal with what your opponent has on board as well.
By the way, if you're wondering why LovelyChook's taking a long time here, is thinking of the implications, what his opponent could have, and what it means down the line 2 to 3 turns from now to play these certain cards. And looks like he's going to go for the Druid of the Claw charge. And this is very interesting because, obviously, this gets kind of punished by a keeper, but that means your opponent, is down to 4 mana, and he kind of needs that keeper, which is you don't really keep in your opening hand versus Druid. Gets a bit punished here, as you can see. He's not too happy about that. But, the second Druid of the Claw will be able to kind of, put a roadblock in front of these two guys.
Swipe's a decent draw, but I think taunting up the second Druid of the Claw is much better. And to be fair, that does mean that LovelyChook is getting a lot of value out of both of his Druids because he was able to sort of trade effectively, kind of, 1 for 1.5 with the Battle Cry, and with the second one, he's still going to get some value out of that.
Right, and we see... Yeah, we could have seen a Savage Roar for a nice clean kill onto the Druid of the Claw, but it looks like it's going to be MagicWind's own Druid of the Claw. And what do you do here if you're LovelyChook? The Mark of the Wild could help you quite a bit. You've obviously already seen the Keeper of the Grove coming from your opponent. Unlikely for him to have a second one, so you could use that. You could also use Swipe, obviously. You could use Force of Nature as well, just to take off this Druid of the Claw. I mean, it feels like kind of a waste, right? You're taking out a 5-cost minion with a spell, but... I mean, these Druid of the Claws are so annoying that it's sometimes worth it.
Sometimes worth it. Mark of Nature, the card to be played. I mean, what are the options here? You play your Force of Nature, feels bad, man. If you play your Asher Drake, you're not really playing on curve. You can get you get the Raven Isle down, but
You could just go for Raven Idol and see if you can pick something up, and then go for Mark of Nature afterward. Looks like he's leaning toward this Force of Nature.
All right, well...
And the thing is, a lot of times in this situation, you really want to hit face rather than killing something like a 2-4, but he's probably going to have to make this trade just so he doesn't get punished by anything crazy. And MagicWind continues to have the initiative here.
Yeah, and it does, clear the board, with the exception of the minion that gets spawned off the Shredder.
You're a Web Lord? Nope, just
Oh,
no, just
no
kidding.
punishment. It's pretty average, just the 2-2 out of the hand. I think that's actually slightly below average given the stats. I think 2-3 is average if I'm not mistaken. But either way, Raven Idol number 2. Big money, big money, big money. What's it gonna be?
Astro Chameleon,
Terrible
go. Yeah.
cards. Oh,
These are really, really bad. You do
oh.
not want Savagery, Astro Chameleon, or the Soul of the Forest. Looks like, I mean, Soul of the Forest is kind of the default pick, even though you're never going to be able to use it.
Man, those Blingtron druids, man, they're out there. I'll never forget watching Forsen lose to a Blingtron druid because he got Gore Howl and then Savagery for 7 damage. It was just like, all right, man, that's
I
cool.
was wondering where you're going with that. I'm like, oh, the Savagery, okay. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now that's that maximum value. Like, how do you get more value than that? Of course, you're supposed to play it with things like bite, so that and claw, so that you get. And nobody does that. But all right. Well, speaking of biting and clawing, Savage Roar, not Savagery, is going to come into hand in a big, big silence from that Keeper of the Grove. Both keepers have been very effective this game.
Exactly, and obviously this is pretty huge. LovelyChook just wants to get as many things on the board as possible, obviously, just to get value out of this Soul of the Forest.
Soul of the Forest, man. That's phew. Keep in mind if you actually run double Soul of the Forest, you can actually double Death Rattle your minions with Soul of the Forest. So when one dies, it spawns 2.
And then you have too many minions on
Saplings.
board for that. But,
Hey, minor technicalities, D2. It's super cool. You should totally try it out.
wow, Snowchugga is kind of interesting here because if no, I mean if you're LovelyChook here, you can hit the face and then prevent the full damage from the combo coming out, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean that does deplete the damage from the combo. Of course, you can always just like run it into something and freeze it for a turn there as well. But swiping used to just clear off one card. I mean, I guess it freezes the
Well, he has
next card that
yeah,
kills
he has
it. But
combo in hand, so basically he has a board lead here. It takes a lot of effort to get rid of both minions on board. With just a Darnassus Aspirant, even if LovelyChook hero powers up, MagicWind does have lethal. So that's, I'm assuming
oh
what
my god,
Max
this
was
is
thinking.
so scary. This is game 5. We've got a Druid mirror match, and we all know Magic Wind has that combo in hand. Ah, save me, D2.
I think we have to see a Mark of Nature here, and then you run your Snowchugga into the 5/5, so that it's just frozen for one turn. You can deal with it later.
Man, it does not get much more hype than this. Mark of Nature coming out, and that's actually going to be a pretty big surprise. Ironically, you've got the Ancient of War, who can't do anything and isn't taunted, versus the almost Ancient of Lore. It's like 1-2 off, or Ancient of War, yeah. Azure Drake now with that Mark of Nature.
I do like this from MagicWind just going for it here instead of waiting. It's your only stuff in hand, right? You might as well just use it right now to get some damage into your opponent. You can potentially use Savage Roar in the future to get even more damage. Going to be bringing LovelyChook down to what looks like 7 health here, and that Savage Roar is looming in his hand. So LovelyChook needs to make something happen. Picks up a swipe, and that is enough to hold off lethal, but it means he has to face tank the Darnassus.
Yeah, which of course also feels pretty bad. Let's see what he draws into a Shade. That is not what the doctor ordered.
Right, and let's see if he does decide to face tank the Darnassus or not. Otherwise, he is dead.
Yeah, I guess he's gonna go for it.
Wow, and that is going to be it. MagicWind has exactly 7 damage coming from his hand, and he will take the 3rd place match, get himself that extra $3,000. LovelyChook, after going up 2-0 in the series, gets reverse all killed. And MagicWind, pretty good finish for him. Probably one of his best finishes in a while.
Man, Magic Wind, yeah. Not a 3-0 sweep or anything. Magic Wind's not a janitor. It's not sweeping people away, but it's still a very, very tense 3rd, 4th place match. I only hope the grand finals are this good.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of